Hey everyone, welcome back to Ontario Gardening. So today we are going to make honey spiced peaches. So this is similar to doing peaches in a simple syrup, but the syrup is just kind of kicked up a notch with some spices. So we are going to need for this recipe, and for the record, this recipe makes 6 pints. You're going to need 8 pounds of peaches. You're looking for the yellow peaches. So when you're looking for varieties of peaches, you're looking for the yellow inside, such as like a Freestone. You don't really want the white peaches because they don't can up as well because their pH is a little different. So you want the yellow peaches, and you want 8 pounds of those, which is about 24 small, or like a quarter of a bushel. 1 cup of white sugar, 2 cups of honey. If you can get unpasteurized honey, even better, like a raw honey, because you're going to have more health benefits with raw honey. 4 cups of water, and then the 3 spices you'll need are some cinnamon sticks, some whole allspice, and some whole cloves. So that's it for the recipe. The ingredients are simple, but the actual task of doing the peaches are a little much. So you can do peach halves or slices. We prefer slices because it's easier to take one at a time out of the jar, or like when we're packing lunches for work and stuff, it's easier. But I will insert a clip right now on how to get the skins off, because you need them skinned and you want the pits out of them, and either halved or sliced. So I will insert that right now. In order to easily get the skins off of peaches, you take boiling hot water, you boil the peaches in there for just 30 seconds, cold plunge them into some cold water, and then that cold plunge is not only allowing it to be cool enough for us to touch it, but as you see, the skin starts to pop right off and then becomes your peaches. And so once you've prepared your peaches, we're pretty much good to go for this recipe. So this is in a water bath, boiling water canner. You don't want this up to a boil yet. So you want the water to just be warm before you're going to put your jars in and process them, because it's probably going to take a minute for all the hot syrup and everything, because you have to cook these in batches. You'll see as we go. Just make sure it's warm and not boiling, and you'll see why in a minute. But the first thing we're going to do is take a pot that we're going to cook our stuff in, and you're going to add the water, the honey, and the sugar. So I've got those 4 cups of water, the 1 cup of sugar, and the 2 cups of honey inside here. And I'm going to put my stove at a medium high because we want to bring this to a boil. And you're going to want to consistently stir this, because you don't want any of that sugar or the honey burning to the bottom of the pot. So make sure to just keep an eye on this, continuously stir it, and then once we get it to a boil, then we can start cooking our peaches. In the meantime, I've got my lids going, and I did start the canner, but I'm just going to make sure that as I go, we're just watching it to make sure it doesn't completely boil. We just want it warm. The other thing I'm going to do is get my jars ready, and I will show you what to do with those jars. If I said 8 pints a second ago, I'm not sure if I said 6 or 8. I'm terribly sorry. It's actually 6. I've got like 3 or 4 different canning recipes on the go today, so I'm getting confused. Anyways, it's 6 pints. So while that's going to our sterilized pints, at the bottom we're going to put a 1/4 teaspoon of the allspice. So if you look at it, it's probably just a couple granules. It really depends how big your allspice is. Mine's a little bit bigger because it's actually a Jamaican allspice, but you're going to do just the 1/4 teaspoon on the bottom of each jar. And then the other thing that we're putting into the bottom of each jar are those whole cloves, and that calls for 1/8 of a teaspoon, which is about 4 to 5 cloves per jar. You don't want to over clove your jars. So 5 to 6 cloves per jar, and you are good. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Okay, so we've got this up to a boil now, which is perfect. Now here comes the little bit of intimidating part. So we're going to turn it down to just make sure it's simmer, not completely boiling. And we are going to cook our peaches in here 1 layer at a time. And each layer of peaches is going to be 3 minutes. So if you were doing half peaches, it's going to be a lot easier than trying to fish out the little slices that I've done. But it's okay, we're gonna make it work. I'm gonna show you the hard times so that if you are doing it the hard way, you can see it done. So we are gonna put those peaches on the bottom here. Okay, see it's in one layer. It's not completely, you probably can't see that it's one layer, but it's one layer. It's not completely all the way packed down to the bottom. Now we're gonna let these sit in here for 3 minutes before we transfer them to the jars. And if this makes sense, this is why we don't want the water canner boiling, because we have to work in batches, and it's likely that once we transfer this into the jar, that first couple jars are gonna cool right down to the point where if we put them inside of a hot canner with it being cool, the jar can break. So that's why we don't want your water canner fully boiling yet. So we're gonna time this for 3 minutes as this simmers in it here. If you're finding it's not simmering, turn your heat back up a little bit. 3 minutes in here, and then we will transfer them. Okay, so it's been 3 minutes, and now we are going to ladle these peaches into, and we're not going to take any of the brine for this. We're gonna worry about putting the syrup on after. So we're just ladling just the peaches into the jar for now, and I will show you what that looks like in a sec. So we've packed our peaches to about the first line in the jar here. Now what we wanna do is we're going to debubble the jar. So you can do that with a chopstick, anything you have really. I've got a knife. We're just gonna take some of the air bubbles out of the jar. Try not to squish your peaches too hard because you have cooked them a little bit, so they're gonna be softer. Then we're gonna add a cinnamon stick in here. So go ahead and just chuck it in the side there. And of course you're gonna have some liquid in there. I said we're gonna, you don't wanna use all the liquid, try and drain some off as you go, but the peaches themselves are liquidy. You're never not gonna get any of the liquid in, but I've got my cinnamon stick in there. I'm gonna pack all these jars, and then once we're done packing them, we'll pour the rest of the brine on top where we're lacking brine. So I'll show you that once I am done these jars. Okay, so we have these packed with our peaches, and a lot of the brine has come with it. But if you're finding that some of the jars don't have brine all the way over top, we just want to make sure, leaving a 1/4 inch head space, that we have brine in our jars all surrounding those peaches. So make sure your brine, like I said, is all the way up covering these peaches, and that you have a nice amount of brine inside of the jar, because we want all of the peaches sitting in syrup while they're stored on the shelf. So once we've done that, we can go ahead and we can use a damp cloth or a damp paper towel, and we want to wipe the rims here because this is very sticky before we put our lids on and process these. Okay, so all of my jars are about to drop into the hot bath, but as you can see, it's not boiling yet. Once these are in here and it does come up to that full rolling boil, we process them for 20 minutes. So see, they're in the water now, and now I have to wait till it's that full rolling boil and everything's boiling, and that's when the process and the time will start. So I am going to do that off camera, and I'll show you what it looks like when we're done. And our peaches are done with the cinnamon stick. There's your spices. They look delicious, smell delicious. We'll see you in the next video.